Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me. And we're going to be talking about kids, babies, cultured foods, and even about pregnancy. Because I've been doing this a very long time, and I have some interesting stories to tell you and some information I have about whether kids can have cultured foods. And it's really been quite an interesting journey for me because when I had my kids, it was a big event. It was, for most people, it's wonderful, but for me, it was life-threatening and life-changing. And my third pregnancy was kind of the catalyst for this blog, my website, my books, everything that I did really came from that last pregnancy when I was 40 years old. It was a pretty scary event. Things went quickly from bad to worse. And they delivered my baby 2 months early to save my life and hers because my liver was shutting down. So it was a very scary time for me and it was very difficult. And never did I expect anything so painful and scary to teach me all the things that I know today, but it did. It is the reason I'm here. And I had to learn somehow. And most of the time, we kind of learn through pain and suffering, which we don't have to, but it seems that many of us do. But the pain kind of turns to wisdom once you're on the other side and you've used it in your life to, really push you forward into some new experiences and into a better way of living. And goodness, that really happened to me. And at the age of 41, when I had my third child, I finally discovered who I really was. I started to understand what was happening to me, why I got so sick. And it was very, very interesting, the whole experience that really turned my whole life around. They say that when you're in the mother's womb, you're in a sterile environment. Well, now they're kind of saying that's not necessarily true. But here's what happens. When you do enter that birth canal, even if you're doing a cesarean section, mostly it benefits you most to go through the birth canal. You're infused with bacteria from everywhere, from your mother, and then from anyone who picks you up, the doctors, the nurses, the environment, you start to come in contact with all kinds of bacteria that starts to become a part of this young one's life. And it lays a foundation, for the inner world too, because these bacteria are responsible for many of the biological processes that influence our lives every day. They supply us with necessary vitamins and minerals and protect us from disease-causing invaders. They strengthen our immune system. And when you destroy this new foundation with antibiotics right at birth, the bacteria barely have a time to get a foothold. So the antibiotics wipe out much of the good bacteria that's meant to protect you and nurture you. And the types of bacteria you see from your mother will determine how well your immune system is and how well it grows and thrives. So I never really understood these types of principles about my microbes with my first two children. I was young. I didn't know anything about cultured foods. And my first two kids never got cultured foods until they were in their teens. I think they were 16 and 14, when I began doing it. They were just typical kids, ear infections, sickness was the norm and to be expected because little kids, they're kind of building up their immune system by getting all these colds and things like that because that's how the immune system really gets strong is by fighting off some of these things. So some of it's good a lot of it's good when kids get sick when they're little but you want to make sure that you're strengthening their immune system. And, we did antibiotics on my kids when they were little. But my third child, when she was born a couple weeks, 2 months early, and with an immune system that was really struggling, they basically told me she didn't get any of my immunities because she was born too early. I really felt that I needed to do something to help her. I found kefir when she was about 10 months old. I began taking it. I gave it to her, and it really transformed her life. And I have a little story video that tells the story of it, and I'll link that in the description below if you'd like to watch it. But kefir changed everything for her and for me. She thrived, and she never had one ear infection her whole life. She's never had an antibiotic, and she's 20 now. And here's the interesting thing. She never, ever went to the doctor because she was sick, not once. And she had well baby visits, but she never went to the doctor because she had anything wrong. And the doctors told me when she was born that she was going to have a damaged immune system and would probably struggle with sickness most of her life because she was born so prematurely. But I believe that those cultured foods changed her. She was dramatically different from my older two kids. And they're mad at me about that, by the way. They were mad they didn't get cultured foods like she did because they did struggle with those things. And she's just been healthier, dramatically so. And I believe it's because I laid a really good foundation for her. So let me share with you a couple other stories of two people who have experienced these benefits of cultured foods. In January of 2012, I contacted with a company with Sound and Shadow to help me shoot videos and also to manage my website. And the man who ran my website back then, or he didn't really run it, he helped me design it and build it. He now works for me full time. And his name is Chris. He's great. And I invited them to shoot a video. They were shooting videos at my house a lot. It was in the very early stages of me starting my business. And they went down and shot a video. We have a boat. We were living in Missouri at the time, and we had a boat, Lake the Ozarks. And they came down and spent the weekend with me and my family and shot videos for me. And a few weeks, it was like probably a month later, two of the men that were there told me their wives were expecting babies. And their wives have been consuming cultured foods for years. And their wives told me stories about their children. Each of them had at least one child that did not get cultured foods. And then they had another child that had consumed cultured foods. And they both had children on the way. And the children who received the cultured foods were much healthier than the siblings who did not, just like I had experienced. They hardly had any doctor visits. They learned to use cultured foods to treat ailments with their kids. They did what I did. Stomach problems were solved with juice from cultured veggies. Colds and flus were lessened or prevented by strengthening their immune system with daily doses of kefir, kombucha, cultured vegetables. And their children were experiencing the same things I had experienced. They were healthier because they started consuming them early on in their lives, because kids do really well with these foods. And when anyone consumes cultured foods, your immune system works better in general and makes the process in your body work so much better overall. And that is doubly true for kids because kids are little and growing and they're laying that foundation of good bacteria. And it's really important that they get that strong microbiome flourishing and growing when they're young. So what do you do when do you start giving your kids cultured foods? I will share with you my experience and what I have witnessed that has had the most success. And, you should always check with your doctor, but, I think you should really start to consume cultured foods before you get pregnant. I think that's ideal. I believe it can help you, and I can think it can even help you to get pregnant by helping hormones begin to function in a better way. That's not always the case, but if you find yourself pregnant with a newborn, then it's a really good place to start if you haven't had cultured foods in your life. If your doctor says you can have yogurt and kefir, then by all means do it. I know many, many, many people who have done this. They start very slowly. And, as you consume them, if you're nursing, you give them to your baby through your milk, which is the best way for babies to get it, is through you. And it's a powerful world that just changes your inner world and changes you and will also change the lives around you. Because remember, the people you live with are probably having the same bacteria you are. You guys all share that. So the more healthy you get, even if, you just get in contact with your other family members, you give them that good bacteria. So that's one of the things that I found most interesting with cultured foods. There was this story that they did a few years back where they took one family and they moved the one family out of their home because they were moving, and they moved the new family into their home. And within 24 hours, the bacteria that the people brought with them into the new home completely colonized that new house. And prior to that, it had other people's bacteria, which was quite a bit different than what these people had. And it didn't take very long for it to colonize with their new, an hour is not very long. So you are a cloud of bacteria walking around. You don't even know that because we can't see it. We don't understand it, but it's 100 trillion bacteria. So wherever you go, the healthier you are, the more people around you get those bacteria, because especially the ones you live with. even your animals and you share similar bacteria. It's really interesting how that all works. But they did this study and they couldn't believe that they could colonize that fast, but it did. And what else was interesting is they said that there was some E. coli on the counter, but the people didn't get it because their immune system just fought it off, and they had enough healthy bacteria that it didn't cause them any sickness. And you guys don't even know that's happening. Those types of things happen all the time because your body's constantly fighting off pathogens or harmful things that would harm you. And the way that you make more of these helpers inside your body that fight these different types of pathogens is to have more good bacteria. The more good bacteria you have, the more of those helper cells you have that fight off these types of invaders that can cause illness. And so it is the same with, mothers holding babies all day. You're giving it to them, whether, you see it or not. So anything you can do to strengthen yourself is going to strengthen your infant, is going to strengthen you. I started giving my infant kefir in tiny teaspoons when she was 10 months old, made a huge difference in her life. She gained weight, which she wasn't rapidly gaining weight because she was a preemie. She started sleeping through the night. She stopped throwing up. It was amazing. That's when I started, was when she was about 10 months old, and it made all the difference in the world. It is the thing that made me launch my blog and website and write my books. It has had a powerful impact on my life, and 20 years later, it's still going strong. I'm still learning more things that I never in a million years dreamed I would learn. And it all started with kefir. And it was milk kefir, and you can do dairy or non-dairy kefir. They both work great for me and my preemie. I used mostly goat milk kefir because she seemed to digest that the best and do the best. She drank a lot of goat milk after she stopped nursing for me. That was what I put her on. She did very, very, very well on it. It has less allergic components in it. It has prebiotics in it because goat's milk has a lot of oligosaccharides that are very good for you. And this isn't a plug for that. It's just what I did. But I put a little bit of kefir in every bottle that I gave her, and she just thrived. And I did it too. Watching her sleep through the night when she wasn't was just amazing. And I did all this in the beginning. It made such a difference for her. And, you get 50 plus good bacteria when you eat kefir. That's more than any other cultured food that you'll ever try. It is huge. Yogurts usually have 4 to 7, maybe. But kefir has over 50. And there's good bacteria and good yeast in there too. And we need those too, a lot. We don't talk a lot about that. Most people think yeast is a bad thing, but it's not because it's what you're comprised of. It just depends on what kind it is. And the good yeast keep the bad ones at bay, keep them in their place. And the same with the good bacteria, keep those harmful bacteria exiting the body and out of the way to keep you from getting ill or getting sick. So, evidence shows that probiotics can play a huge role in colic and eczema and intestinal problems in babies, and I've seen that across the board. But starting them off early by you giving it to them in their milk is huge. I started with a kefir powder. I have an easy kefir powder that I sell, and it's similar to what I started with. And that's what I started with because it was super easy. You just put this, it's made from kefir grains. So you get the same benefits as if you use grains. But when I had an infant, I was very busy. Didn't have time to care for grains because I was caring for my baby. So I just used the it wasn't easy kefir. It was a different kefir powder. But it wasn't made from kefir grains. So I developed a product that was made from kefir grains to make it stronger. And you just dump that in milk, be it non-dairy or dairy. Let it sit on your counter in a jar for 24 hours and you have kefir the very next day. It's incredible. And my toddler, so many, I gave it to her. She was little. It was really funny though. As she got older, she kind of wanted to fall away from it as much. She kind of got to be a teenager, but she started having problems when she didn't have it. She got skin issues and her digestion wasn't as good and she felt tired. And so she asked me to make her smoothie every day when I made mine. So I just doubled it. And what a difference it's made. It really has made a huge difference for her. And I didn't have to convince her she saw the evidence herself. And she drinks it every day, has been for many, many years. But it's exciting to see people become convinced, and not me convincing them, having their own bodies convince them of the wellness that these powerful foods create. Food is powerful medicine, guys. It can change your life. It can change so many things in your moods and the way that you handle yourself day to day. It's a powerful lesson to learn that foods can really change your life. You are what you eat, but you really are what you digest. Because lots of times you can eat lots of foods, but if your digestion is bad, you're not absorbing the nutrients you need. And the wonderful thing about probiotics food is that it helps you digest them. It's something about not understanding how we're really made. And that's what I try to do in these podcasts, is try to teach you things that perhaps you don't know that are easy. I mean, guys, it takes less than 5 minutes to make kefir. I mean, it takes 24 hours to ferment, but you're not doing the work the microbes are. And I love that. I love it sitting on my counter and doing its thing. And then the next day I get all the benefits. And so there's a lot of different foods you can give. Kids love kombucha. Kids like some of the cultured vegetables I have. I've got special ones for kids, whether it's carrots, and jicama is one of the ones the kids really like. I've got different types of vegetables they like. But even just doing kefir alone is huge. And kids respond very fast to beneficial microbes in cultured foods. It can make all the difference to start them out when they're young. It helps to set a really good base. Always follow your own instincts. Let your body teach you what works best for you. Our bodies are amazing and complex. And if they could talk, I'd imagine them to say, "You be good to me and I will shine for you." And having a healthy kid can change your whole life. It can be such a blessing because when you're sick and you don't feel good, and that goes for you or your kids, life is hard and it's a struggle. And wellness should be the norm, not the exception. And having well kids should be the norm. And more I'm seeing kids that are sick all the time, but they have a lot of emotional problems. They're struggling with, they don't always eat the best. And so if you could just get a little bit of cultured foods in them, it would be a tremendous impact on their health. So that is my personal things that I do, and some of the people around me and the thousands of people that I've helped. The stories are amazing. They're inspiring. You should check out my Lives Touch page at culturedfoodlife.com. I've got a little thing at the top that says Lives Touch, and read some of the amazing stories that people send me. And a lot of them are about kids. It's wonderful. What a difference it can make with things like autism and, kids who've got problems with their skin and, emotional problems. It's an amazing thing to use food as medicine. It works powerfully well. Not to say that medicine's bad, because I'm not against medicine or doctors. I think they're great, but I think that you can really change things very dramatically by changing what you eat. If you don't believe me, give it a try. See what happens. Thank you guys for listening. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I hope that these podcasts help you. I hope they help you to understand your body just a little bit better, because it can be an overload of information in this world we live in now. These are the things I do and the people around me and the hundreds and thousands of people that I've helped. It's been amazing because you guys teach me things too, and I love that about you. Thanks for listening, guys, and have a great week.